طلق طلق فعل طلق فعل past tense. الرجل امرأته. So this nasab is indicates maf'ul and this rafa indicates fa'il. So fa'il and maf'ul. And what is this talaqan ba'inan murakkab tawsifi? An irrevocable divorce. So this is murakkab tawsifi, but grammatically it is maf'ul. How we learn that this is maf'ul? Because of their i'rab nasab here. So this is maf'ul, but we already have one maf'ul, which is imra'atahu. If a man divorces his wife, so his wife, this is object here, object of divorce, right? Similarly, he gives her irrevocable or irrevocable divorce. So this is also a maf'ul. So it means there could be there could be more than one maf'uls in one sentence. Yeah, usually there is only one maf'ul, but sometimes there could be more than one, and that is the case here. Maf'ul 1 and this is maf'ul 2. So lam yajuz lahu. So talaqa mean he divorces. Yeah, he divorced. And then talaqan ba'inan, ba'in mean that separates. Yeah, that separates, or the divorce which is final, because the final divorce is the one who separates completely. There are two types of divorces. Inshallah, we learn them in detail when we come to them. So just give you a overview. So talaq, there is talaq raj'i, mean retractable divorce. This is not final divorce, this is lighter one. So a man, if he divorces his wife, and it means revocable divorce, which is retractable divorce, we call it talaq raj'i. He can retract to his wife during the iddah, during the waiting period. There is a waiting period after divorce. There is a waiting period of 3 months. So during this period, wife remains in the same house. She stays in the same house. So during this period, if the husband he regrets and he take her back, then there is no need to make a new contract, marriage contract. So they are still husband and wife. They become husband and wife, even though he pronounced the divorce. But the second type, which is the severe divorce, which is talaq ba'in, we call it final divorce. So here he cannot retract during the iddat, during the waiting period. He cannot take her back. Yes, he can take her back by conducting a new marriage contract. Yeah, new nikah he has to make it, then he can take her back. So this is talaq ba'in. So the ruling is that the divorce, the nikah, during the waiting period, nikah subsists, nikah persists in some aspects, because the husband he has to give maintenance and lodging to the wife during the waiting period. So why he is giving her the maintenance, why he is providing her the lodging? Yeah, only because she is still his wife in some some way, in some aspects she is still his wife. Yeah, if the waiting period ends, now this is a complete separation. Now they are not husband wife anymore. Yeah, so just keep all this detail in mind, inshallah, because here our topic is not talaq. Our topic is that the eternal taboos, muharramat abadiyya, in marriageable kin. The people, we cannot marry them forever. That is our topic. So the talaq detail, it is not the main issue here. So but we need to learn what is the talaq ba'in and what are its rulings to understand the main mas'ala here, the case study. Okay, so we are doing the ibarah. So talaq ba'in, I explained the word ba'in here. Then lam yajuz lahu, lam yajuz yaf'ul, yajuz yaf'ul. So this is mudari. Okay, mudari. Just I identify the past tense and the present tense. Talaqa fa'ala, this is madi, but yajuz yajvuz, this is fi'l mudari. And yatazawwaj, this is also fi'l mudari. Yeah, because there is ya in the end, in the beginning, and there is dhamma at the end. There is no dhamma here. Yatazawwaja, actually there is, originally there was a dhamma, but because of this an here, an causes nasab on fi'l mudari. Yeah, just remember, an, lan, kay, izan, they are 4 words. They causes nasab on fi'l mudari. So bi ukhtiha. So here the sentence is jumla shartiya, because sentence starting with a conditional particle iza. We know that in, law, iza, ma, man, they are the conditional particles. So after that there must be two sentences, shart and jaza. So here طلق الرجل امرأته طلاقا بائنا, this is jumla shart, and لم يجوز له أن يتزوج بأختها, this is jumla jaza, and حتى تنقضي عدتها, all this till here this is jumla jaza. And then the new sentence is ولا يجوز للمولى أن يتزوج أمته ولا المرأة. ولا المرأة, why there is jar here? Because it is matuf on al-mawla, and mawla is also majroor because of this lamzirli, this jar. Yeah, so matuf alayh and matuf, they share the same i'rab. So the i'rab of mawla is jar, so the i'rab of mar'a is also jar. Mean wala yajuzu lil mawla wala yajuzu lil mar'ati, yeah, to marry abdaha, her slave. Yeah, so that is the okay. Let's get into the the case study. What is case study here? Case study is that we are learning, the muharramat abadiyya, means that the two people, two women, we cannot combine them in a marriage. Yeah, so that is our main mas'ala here. So two sisters, we cannot combine them, in one marriage. We already learned that. Why? Because this leads to severage, the kinship relation between two. That's why Sharia, it made it prohibited. But there is a case scenario is that a man, he divorced a woman. Yeah, he divorced a woman, and now she is in waiting period. So in that waiting period, is it allowed for him to marry his sister-in-law during the waiting period of his wife? That is the case. You got this? So for example, Zaid, he married to Fatima, and yeah, then he divorced. Okay, he married and he divorced Fatima, and Fatima has a sister, Qawla. Yeah, so originally it is by default, it is not, Zaid is not allowed to combine Fatima and Qawla in one marriage. Yeah, that is by default. But now Zaid can claim that I divorced Fatima, so there is no marriage between us, so she is stranger to me, so it should be permitted for me to marry her sister Qawla, right? But here the case is that it is not allowed, it is not permitted for Zaid to marry Qawla during the waiting period of Fatima. Yeah, waiting period is 3 months. Yeah, salasata quru, 3 menses, so which is normally 3 months. So here why it is not allowed? Because nikah, it subsists during the waiting period. Yeah, why it subsists? Because he has to pay the maintenance, he has to provide the lodging, to the wife. So it means there is a relationship still there. Yeah, although it is not like husband, they are not like husband wife. Yeah, but there are some rulings that indicates there is that marriage is still there. That's why it is not permitted for Zaid to marry Khawla, mean his sister-in-law. Yeah, and because it becomes combining two sisters in one marriage, which is prohibited, which is muharramat abadiyya. Got it? Okay, so here وَإِذَا طَلَّقَ الرَّجُلُ, and when a man divorces imra'atahu, his wife, طَلَاقًا بَائِنًا, with an irrevocable divorce, means a final divorce. And I told you why this is called final divorce, because now the marriage is over, mean marriage contract is over. Yeah, and if he wanted to retract, to get her back, he has to make a new marriage contract. Without that he cannot take her back. So that is final divorce. So in this case, right after pronouncing divorce, right after lam yajuz lahu, it is not valid, it is not permissible for him an yatazawwaja, to marry bi ukhtiha, her sister. Got it? Hatta tanqadiya iddatuha, hatta, until tanqadiya iddatuha, her waiting period has expired. Yeah, tanqadiya, this word means elapses, completes. So and I told you this is 3 months. Yeah. Okay, so here they mentioned talaq ba'in, talaq ba'in. So what about talaq raj'i, if the divorce is retractable? So so the same ruling applies there. The same ruling means he cannot marry her sister. Why? Because in talaq raj'i, nikah is there. He can take her back. So nikah is is stronger in talaq raj'i case. Nikah in talaq ba'in, it is, it is not stronger. It is, weak, very weak. Only in some, cases. Mean, he is providing her, maintenance and lodging. Yeah. But in talaq raj'i, he doesn't need, any new nikah. She is still her wife. She can make intimacy with her in talaq raj'i. And as soon he make intimacy, so she this is considered retraction, rujur, and she becomes, her wife again. Got it? So talaq raj'i, it is lighter talaq. It is not a, severe. And it is sunnah. Inshallah, we learn in talaq that what is sunnah, what is recommended way to divorce a woman. It is to give her, to divorce her with talaq raj'i, not talaq ba'in. Talaq ba'in is very, hated, talaq. Although it is permissible, but it is hated. It is not, it is, we are discouraged. Okay.